Welcome to our teen craft program. I'm Miss Carla and I work for the St. Johns County Public Library System. Today we are making a corner bookmark. The way that works is you'll put that in your book and it'll go just like this. And so you can see how, and that works really well. And I'm going to put that down. So if you picked up a kit at your local library, you should have 2 squares of red fabric and 1 square of a white cherry fabric, and you will also have a triangle of interfacing and a square of interfacing. Now if you're making this at home, what you would need would be 2 4-inch squares of one color of fabric and 1 4-inch square of another. But if you wanted to, you can make it all one color if you'd like, and that would be just fine. You will need your interfacing. This is a mid-weight, and as you can see, you don't need a whole lot, but you're going to cut that a little bit smaller because if you tried to make it the same size, it gets a little bulky and a little hard to sew. So these squares are 3 1/4 inches for the interfacing. Now to get the triangle, what you would do is you would take a straight edge and go once your 3 1/4 square of interfacing, you would center that across the corners of your interfacing and cut that in half. I'm marking that, and this will not show it, so it won't matter what you use to mark that because it will not show. You're just going to iron it on the back. And it doesn't have to be real exact because again, it's not going to show. So you are going to need an iron, and you will need a damp piece of, I have a scrap piece of fabric here. You could use a dish towel, not the kind like you dry off getting out of the shower, but one of the smooth-sided dishcloths if you wanted, or just like I have, a scrap of fabric. Okay. You are going to need an iron. You're going to need some thread and some pins in addition to what's in your kit. So let's go ahead and get started on the ironing. So what you're going to do is you are going to take your white piece of fabric and you are going to iron. This is a little bit damp. It's not wet, but it is a little bit damp. I'm going to center this square, and it's kind of hard to see, but center your smaller square of interfacing. Make sure that you've got the bumpy side down, and then take that damp piece of scrap fabric or whatever you have, and you're going to press it with your iron. You're just going to kind of let it sit there, and if you want to give it some extra steam, that'll work too, especially if and just let it sit. Because this is such a small square, just letting your iron sit there for 10 to 15 seconds will be fine. All right, I'm going to lift that up and make sure that all of my corners are down. And do remember that the interfacing all goes on the back side of your fabric. You don't want it on the pretty side of your fabric. You want it on the wrong side. And I actually, when I turn that over, realized that corner still needs to be ironed down just a little, so I'll do that. Give it some extra steam. Let's check that again. Okay, that's better. So now I'm going to take my triangle of interfacing, and I'm going to put that about 1/4 inch down from the corner of my red fabric. And remember, you're always putting the interfacing on the wrong side, not the pretty side of your fabric. So let's go ahead. This one got a little damp. I think I'll use it. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my scrap of fabric. I'm going to put my iron down check that. Okay, that looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this together, I'm going to put my white square with the pretty side up. I've got the interfacing on the back now. I'm going to put the pretty side up, and then I'm going to take this red piece that has the triangle on it. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to press it. Then I'm going to put that triangle up here on the upper. When I'm looking at it here, it's the upper right hand corner. So so it's like this, and from me looking at it and like you looking at it, you're going to put that triangle in the upper right hand corner. You're going to put your other red square on top. And then I'm going to take some pins and I'm going to pin this together. You are going to need to leave an 1.5 inch opening to turn this. You do not want to turn it on the triangle portion. When I say the triangle portion, I mean you don't want to do it on this side, you don't want to do it on this side, you want to leave your 1.5 inch on one of these two sides. Just make sure this is all nice and even. We're going to take the pins out as we sew. Now I've just done the 3 sides that have the triangle. I've pinned those together. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pin that last corner together. But now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to, let's see, I've run out of pins, so that's okay. I'm just going to take, so I'm going to pin over here. I'll take this, oh, here it is. Okay, so, and I'm going to leave about 1.25 inches over here. 1.5 inches, I'm sorry, 1.5 inches. And I'm going to start sewing from one of these pins and make my way around. The next thing we're going to do is go over to the sewing machine. Welcome back. I am now over at our sewing machine and I am at one of those pins that is in my 1.5 inches across. I'm going to bring my needle down and I'm going to go ahead and start sewing. Now because we're going to be turning this inside out, I'm going to take that pin out and I'm going to back stitch because there will be a lot of pressure on those stitches whenever you go to turn this. So here we go. When I get down to my corner, I'm taking out my pins as I go. My needle is down. I need to make sure that it's down when I turn my corner. And let's see, I need to go one more stitch it looks like because I'm not quite at my 1/4 inch. So there we go. I'm going to go very slowly. Now I'm at my 1/4 inch. I'm turning my corner. I'm going to go down and remove these pins as we go. Slowing down because I'm at my corner again. Okay, let's see. Okay, good. That's a 1/4 inch. Maybe one more stitch. All right. So now I'm at the end, and I'm going to go sew up to that second pin that was marking off the 1.5 inches. I'm going to sew there, and then I'm going to back stitch again. And then I'm going to take this out. I'm going to take my scissors and cut my threads. So cut some threads here. All right. Now I'm going to kind of finger press this down to get it ready to turn inside out. You see I have this nice big opening, but I'm going to kind of crease that because when I turn it inside out, it's going to look a lot neater if I do, because it kind of gets the fabric started where you want it to be. Now I need to clip my corners before I turn it. So let's see, I think I can actually clip that corner a little more. So I'm clipping my corners, and then I'm going to find my opening again. I'm going to turn it inside out. Okay. All right. So once I got that turned inside out, what I would actually do is I would take, once I had it all the way, I would take you know, just something that can push up in the corners and push that out like that. I would go back over to my ironing board and I would press it down once I had all of that done. And this is one that I've already turned inside out. I'm going to brush all those corners away. And this is where the opening was, and I pressed that opening down, and so now it's ready to sew. And so what I'm going to do is once you've gone back over and you've ironed it down and ironed it nice, you're going to just pick a spot to start. It's not going to matter as much. This is about 1/8 of an inch. So we're sewing in a little bit further, a little bit closer. Oops. Okay. I need to make sure my needle's not going to come unthreaded. It about was, because I did not make sure that this was up at the top and my needle was about to come unthreaded. So I'm going to hold on to that and go ahead and get started. I've got 1/8 of an inch right there on my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew all the way around. It does get a little bit thick when you get in these corners, so you just need to kind of slow down a little bit. And I'm actually having a little bit of trouble on that one. There we go. Okay, so I've gone all of the way around, and the next thing that I would do is I would go back over and iron it again to finish up, and I've stitched all the way around. And so when you get all done, you now have your bookmark. Again, you would press this one more time, but for now, I'm going to take this one out and I'll put the one that we just made in. And you want to trim those threads nice and neat. But as you can see, we now have a new bookmark, and we want to thank our friends at the library for paying for the materials for our programs. Thank you, and we'll see you again next month.